So welcome. So we have a few speakers lined up to do our showcase and share the great work that has come through the FRACTL grants. So our course master grants and then our innovation and learning grants. So we have some people lined up to share some of the things they've done. We get to see all the cool things in FRACTL and being part of the trio and share. We see all the course developments. We see all of the pieces of innovation and learning grants come through. But you guys don't always get to see that as the campus. So we want to share some great successes. So our first speaker today is going to be Erin, and she's online. She is going to be presenting an AI crash course for educators and her overview.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, hey, Erin. Hi, Erin.
Hi. Also, I created this course in conjunction with Kelly, Lucy, and Michelle Bro. So I'm going to invite them to share. I think, yep, Kelly's there in person enjoying her lunch, and I know Michelle's online with me. Do either of you want to share anything before I show our course? I see Kelly shaking her head. Michelle?
Nope, you go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share my entire screen. Oops, wrong one. I apologize, but all the banners up at the top makes it difficult to see the page I need to be on. So let's take a page away. And there we go. Can we see the AI crash course for educators?
Yes.
Wonderful. So this course is specifically designed for faculty. However, I think any employee at Estrella could go through the course and get a better understanding of how to use AI in their jobs or personal lives. It's very, like I said, basic. It gives you sort of those introductory skills that you can build on. One of the things that we made sure that we did was when we used AI, we included the proper citation for it. So for example, the opening picture was created by using LightX, which was AI. And so this is how MLA would have you cite your work that you created with the AI. So if you're using it within your classes and you're having students create charts or images, this is a perfect example of how to do that. Our welcome page just introduces you to our modules. We focused on like I said, the basics. So providing you with lots of resources to help you out. What is generative AI? And is it going to take over? No. Your Roomba will not suddenly try to kill you, which is what I'm always afraid of, which is why I don't have one. Although I have seen videos of robots talking to other robots in the middle of the night and getting them to do things that they're not supposed to be doing. But that's a story for another day. Then we go into prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is really what gets you successful outputs when you're using AI. I broke it up into two parts so that there's some more advanced techniques that you can work with in part two. We know that prompt engineering is critical when using AI because there are whole courses out there for $15,000, $2,000 at ASU and NAU where they're teaching you just prompt engineering. You don't have to pay for that. You can get this for free. It works differently than like when you're using a search engine. So one of our first assignments is the difference between search engines and Gen AI or generative AI. Excuse me. Then we go into biases, inaccuracies, and hallucinations. One of the things we still have to keep in mind is that there are all kinds of errors in AI because it's just used data from the internet, which we know is skewed by humans who created it. We talk about ethics and using AI ethically in your courses or personally. One of the things that I want to really iterate with emphasis is the importance of not uploading documents that are personal to your life and not requiring students to upload their work. Students should have a choice. Remember that when you upload any data, whether that's raw data, papers, white papers, whatever it is, into an AI platform, it does not matter what platform it is, that material becomes part of the platform's brain. And it can then be used and provided as part of outputs for other people. And so that's why you should not be requiring students to do that. It should be an option because students own their intellectual property. It also means that when we use AI to help us with information from the college, we need to be careful about what data are we uploading into that. So just my little warning, be careful, be thoughtful about it. We end with a syllabus statement because a lot of folks are still trying to figure out, what should I put in my syllabus? And then we have some ways that you can use AI to teach to students. The course was, as I said, broken down. We have all kinds of AI links that are available to you. This was curated with the help of again, both Michelle and Kelly. We have some little brief descriptions about the different kinds of AI links. So again, when we start talking about AI, it's so much more than ChatGPT. There's so many different things that you can do. Some of these tools can help students with disabilities. Some of them can manipulate visuals, create audio for you from PDFs, create podcasts for you. It's pretty amazing what can be done. We also have included the Maricopa information as well. Trying to think if there's anything else. Michelle or Kelly, any comment on the links? Because I know that was a really important thing that we wanted to add for folks.
I will just say that the links are like ever evolving because we're in such a new, it's still so new. So, we have to, as Erin was talking, I was thinking we need to make sure, if you find something like it's a broken link, please let us know, because things are always changing. If you have something, you're like going through this, you're like, hey, I think there's something you forgot. Also let us know.
Yes, that's a great point. And especially now that companies are buying each other up, right? It's kind of like there's like a cheesy game app that I see every now and then, a commercial when I'm playing one of my cheesy game apps where it's like a fish that keeps biting like smaller fishes and gets bigger and bigger. That's pretty much what the landscape is like with AI. We have all kinds of readings that are available. Now, these are not just to inform you, but these are readings that you can use in your classroom. I've met with a couple adjuncts who've borrowed these articles to help get their students to think about AI in the classroom and AI in education. I also included the APA formatting for how to cite ChatGPT. There is also, it's not here, but oh yeah, it is. MLA Style Centers, how to how to format a citation for generative AI. So those are there as well to help you with citation if you're teaching your students. We have some additional book resources that are available, Maricopa resources. There's some sample AI statements. If you're willing to share with us your AI syllabus statement, if you think it's unique and different and another way that you're approaching it, and you feel comfortable sharing, please feel free to email that to any one of us, me, Kelly, or Michelle, and we'll make sure it gets put up. And then these are some AI newsletters that I follow. They've been really helpful in terms of kind of giving me a snapshot of what's happening in AI and kind of watching the business stuff, but they also provide lots of interesting and cool prompts. So if you're interested in following any of those in your email, you're welcome to click on them. And then and I will be adding to this, formulating prompts for various business needs. I'm currently working on an AI crash course for professionals to be part of our, I can't think of what it's called. It's adult ed program.
Community
Thank
education.
you. Community education. It's the end of the semester, folks. And so I've been actually I've taken the prompts and broken them up into various categories like strategy, AI prompts for social media and marketing, personal development. So I'll be adding those actually this week, so that we have a little bit more well-rounded businessy option in this. You'll see that the course is just broken down. You have an overview page, which gives you an idea of what to find in that particular module. We talk about key concepts. If there's something for you to read or a video, we include those. As adult learners, I don't expect everybody to read and watch everything. Sometimes you pick and choose. But I know that there's people that always want to read everything and see everything. So we just put things that we thought would be helpful to understand those topics. And then, read what you think is best for you, or read what you can read. And then we just talk about the activities that would be due that week. The activities are broken down. There's always a reflection question and then a couple of assignments. In the AI evaluation assignment, we get you to actually evaluate and play around with some different AI. That I have to say that I think exploration is really the best way to learn. Kelly, Michelle, do you want to jump in and talk about sort of the best way to learn with AI?
Swallow. Every time I take a bite, Erin, you ask a question.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'd say keep going, Erin. You're good.
Okay. So exploration. I know that's how Michelle and I, when we took an AI course, we kind of couldn't get enough. And so we included can't get enough activities in here. So for the second module, we want you to learn to generate content with AI, generate an assignment or a rubric. Those are all pretty standard. But if you just can't get enough, try making a quiz or creating some art. When you get into prompt engineering 2, this assignment allows you to take content that you already have and maybe use AI to revise it to make that lesson plan or make that activity even better. Creating a slideshow or a video with AI. How to reorganize or organize information. Maybe you have a lot of information you want to talk about, but you don't like the order in which you're putting it in. AI can help you. Or maybe you have too much information in a lesson plan. You want to consolidate it. And then, of course, create an infographic. With the bias in AI, it's really more of a reflective discussion. And then there is a really kind of interesting, fun fact-checking activity. When we get into AI, there is an opportunity to show you how to edit your work. And I do have students do this activity. I usually imagine that they've interviewed with Martina for a tutoring position, and then they have to write like a thank you letter for the interview, and then I have them run that thank you letter through an AI, because it's not something personal that they would really have written for themselves. It's not their paper. It's just a one-off short thing they're writing for this assignment. So I don't feel like there's really jeopardy with their intellectual property. Although if a student refused, I would be okay with it. But every student who's done it was really surprised at what they got back in their output of what they could do to make their letter better, which was really a nice way to do it. So it's a nice way to kind of teach you about how you can edit things. You can always put like an email through there to see kind of like, oh, should I edit my email in some way? And then we have an assignment about how to practice citing sources properly when you use your AI. And then, of course, evaluating some syllabuses, look at the syllabus statements and see, what do you think, what sits well with you, looking at the parameters from Maricopa's rules and regulations, and then having you create your own. But I think the really fun thing to look at is what are some of the ways that we can teach students to use AI? So we have a little Gen AI student tasks, so some examples of how they can use AI. And then the next page, module 7, is really just a list of activities and assignments that we're already doing in class. So if you have a great activity that you're doing with your students that includes AI and you are willing to share it, we would love to include it on our list and to make it available to other faculty so that they can start to use AI in their classrooms. And if they so want to, teach students how to use it ethically and positively. Any questions?
Any
Kelly,
questions
Michelle?
for Erin, Michelle, Kelly? Anyone? Erin?
Yes.
Is this training going through FPG approval?
I'm about to submit the paperwork. So yes, I'm hoping that we will be able to get FPG approval very soon.
Hi, Erin. I have a quick question. First off, this looks
Sure.
great. In fact, I think I emailed you before. I forgot, but we have another cheap CTL plug. We have our course Reno site, and some of the tools on there is related to AI. So I just wanted to find out, would you be okay? Because we would love to support this and put it on
Mhm.
our website too. In fact, I'll throw the link in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm okay with it if Michelle and Kelly are.
Also,
Works for
yeah.
me.
Yeah, okay, that'll be great. Okay, and I'll put a link in the chat if you ever want to take a look at it, but I think it'll be a good place for that to try to also support and promote it as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any last questions before we go to our next presenter? All right, thank you, Erin,
Thank
Michelle,
you.
and Kelly. All right, our next presentation will be Mary Broding. She's going to be reviewing ARH 101, Reimagining the Art History Survey course, a chronological approach for global inclusivity. And Mary, you're online, right? There
Yeah,
you are.
can you see my screen?
Yes, and we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. So the impetus for this course was a desire to
Sorry, I accidentally did that, Mary. I was
thanks, Liz. Thanks. That's okay. Okay. Okay, you can still see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so the impetus for this course has kind of been a long time coming for me. I've always kind of known that the way the art history course survey, this is ARH 101 and 102, Renaissance through Renaissance, sorry. Words are hard today. It's been a day, as you've experienced as well with having to move locations. Prehistoric through Gothic is ARH 101, and then although I actually think the title's changed now to through Middle Ages. I think that just happened. So we're going to have to change that banner. And then ARH 102, which is Renaissance through modern or contemporary, essentially. So the crux is, even though there's more global focus in these courses, typically it's still very Western focused. And that has a historical lineage going back to the late 19th century. I did some research on it. I'm actually having an article published on the work that I did for this course. So essentially, I decided to overhaul the design of this specific course in alignment with that. And my argument is that a very timeline-based approach is more inclusive and equitable in terms of getting students exposed to art globally versus through the lens of like the progression of Western civilization from, you know, a European perspective. So with that being said, I'm gonna give a little details on what that looks like versus what it used to look like, and then go into some details with some of the assignments that I created for this course based on the new design that I gave it and some of the changes that I made between fall and spring semester, and then some changes that'll be made before it runs again in the fall. As all of you know, course design is perpetual redesign. Okay, so typically this would start with prehistoric art in Europe and then move to the ancient Near East, so basically Mesopotamia. Then it would move to Egypt. Then it would hop to the art of the Aegean, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, maybe like a chapter on the rest of Africa from prehistory through like 1430 pages. And then we'll continue to Byzantium and early Christian art. And then we hop over to some of Asia and Oceania and the Americas, each kind of getting like 20 to 30-ish pages, like in a traditional hardback textbook or like an online version. So the way I did this was clearly timeline based. So I started with 8,000 to 2000 BCE. BCE, if you're not aware, is before Common Era, and then CE is Common Era, and that's just the scholarly version of BC before Christ and AD after death, just for timeline purposes. So what I did was The modules are timeline based, so we have 8,000 to 2,000 BCE, 2,000 to 1,000 BCE, and so on all the way up to 1400 CE, and then there's a module for the culminating assignment. Most of these modules are 2 to 3 weeks in length, and they focus on the specific time period as well as a portion, like a deliverable for this overarching culminating assignment that students have to do. So I titled the culminating assignment the virtual museum exhibit assignment, and in each of these modules, they have something that they need to do for it. So in module 1, they're brainstorming for exhibit theme ideas. Module 2, they're proposing a theme that they have decided to go out of the ones that they initially chose and that I've provided them feedback on. Module 3, they're coming up with an annotated bibliography. So they're having to do research for not just the pieces themselves, but for context on the pieces so that they can make sure that the pieces that they've chosen align with their overall theme. Module 4, they're expanding with an artwork list. They have to have at least 10 pieces in the exhibit, and then they have to have initial description. So the idea is you're in a museum, you're in a special exhibit, right? Not like the permanent collection kind of stuff, but you're in like a special exhibit. Let's say it's on sculpture representing fertility throughout history, right? So they're focusing on like an overarching theme that's really kind of global or universal in nature. And then they're picking pieces from different regions of the globe so that it truly is like a global virtual art exhibit that they're creating. So they have to come up with the list, initial descriptions for the pieces. Then they have to expand on those artwork descriptions because they are writing like you're in an art exhibit and for whatever the theme is, it has like a write-up, right? Like on the wall. And it describes like, you know, how all these pieces align with the specific theme and how it's important and stuff like that. So they have to write that, and then they have to make sure that they have like the descriptions like you would have on the little placards underneath the piece in the art exhibit that not only describe the details of the piece, but how it aligns with their overall theme. Module 6, they're writing analytical essays. So we're kind of expanding out to think like, if there was a catalog done on the exhibit, what are some types of essays that would be in it, right? So they have to kind of expand on 3 pieces and explain how each of those pieces further ties into the overall theme that they've chosen. Module 7, they're drafting their presentation and they submit it to me for feedback. And then in week 8, they are submitting everything kind of together, that final presentation. So they have to do like a website or a slide deck with all the pieces and the information, like as it would be on the wall of a museum in their presentation. Again, whether it's a website or a slide deck, I really leave that up to them. And then they have to record walking through it as if they're, you know, giving us a tour as a docent of their virtual museum exhibit, and then a reflection basically on what they learned and how, you know, it ties back into all the elements of the assignment that they've produced, because they produced a lot of work for this culminating assignment, how that, you know, ties back into what they've learned in the course. I always think that reflection component is really important. It also helps me to, you know, make revisions moving forward. And then they have the option of sharing it with their peers. I don't have it points-based because this is an asynchronous class. But that is the overarching chunked culminating assignment for the class. And then in the other weeks, they have, so, you know, your online hybrid and hybrid learning orientation. I also do a syllabus reconnaissance assignment. And I think I've done that. This is actually, I learned this from AQ, the training, as a shameless plug for that. This assignment is awesome. So, and I've done this in hybrid classes, asynchronous online classes, live online classes, in-person classes. I fully endorse this type of activity. So they have to review the syllabus that is linked here, and then they have to list out 5 key pieces of information. And then they also have to ask me questions. And then what I'll do is I'll go in and either individually respond to their questions, or if there are similar questions from multiple students, I'll do like a video response to those. But that really helps students like dig into the assignment and and the syllabus and ask questions. I have also tried to weight all of the assignments similarly. That way, if they miss one, it's not a big deal in terms of like passing the class, but it also incentivizes them, right? Like, it's not like, oh, here's a 5-point assignment versus like 150-point assignment, right? If they're all weighted the same, they're all kind of the same stakes. So I find that it gets better turnout for assignment submission. And then for each of the time periods, they have to do an assignment choice. So not only are they tapping into all of these time periods for this overarching assignment, but they also have to do a timeline specific assignment. So they do get an assignment choice. I tried to take into account like if a student would prefer just something more visual and create a map, or if they would do a comparative essay, or if they want to look at like an art history controversy. So each of these just links out to the specific assignment instructions, and I'll do this one just because I think the mapping one is kind of fun. So for each of these, they're going to have to do something written, but they can also like create something visual if it applies. There's some other ones where they can create like a architecture blueprint, or I can't remember off the top of my head, but we will walk through those. And then there's a rubric that I created for each of these. I tried to make it apply to all of the assignment options. It's going okay this semester, but I may tweak it down the line. I just wanted to have something that could be used for all of the assignment choices. That way I wasn't, because before I was having them submit it like depending on the rubric type, if it was like a presentation or a paper, and that just got too confusing for students and myself. So I thought this was a way to like streamline it. Let's look at some of the other ones. So for example, module 3 assignment choice, they can do a thematic exhibit, they can do a cultural artifact report, where they're focusing more on cultural, they're looking at the artifacts specifically. So for this one, again, it's got a global focus. They have to choose a specific type of artifact and choose at least 3 regions highlighted in this week's reading. So it's never just like one specific region. They're choosing an assignment, and then they have to look at different areas of the globe, just so they're getting their hands, figuratively, on more regions of the world and types of art that's being produced. But it also gives them choice. They get to choose what they want to focus on. If they just want to focus on like African and South American and Asian art, like they can do that. But this gives them more autonomy in that, and it's less like here's just a march through history of these important pieces, and this is what you have to, regurgitate information on in like an essay or an exam or something like that. Let's see. Where am I at time-wise? I get talking about
1
this and I
minute.
could just 1 minute. Okay, great. So some changes that I made real quick. There was some confusion over like, oh, themes. They would be submitting themes that were like fashion from the 20th century. And I'm like, wait. This course ends at like 1400. Like you can't be doing 20th century fashion. So what I did was I created some examples of like themes that would apply, and just for the first several deliverables that students really struggled with, like in the fall. For the spring, I created like samples for them to like use as an example, but with the caveat of like, you can't use this as an idea. You have to choose something different. And then I also created rubrics that were very specific to each of these deliverables. And that seems to be helping me with, giving more effective feedback, but also students like understanding what's expected. So I will end there.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mary? Online or in person? Erin, you're clapping, right? Not a hand up?
Yes, I was clapping.
Thank you.
Any questions in here?
No, they're very excited about the museum.
Yeah.
Steal on that one.
Feel free.
Professional growth.
Yeah.
Seriously.
All right, thank you so much, Mary. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, our next presentation is Yvette, and you're online, right, Yvette? Oh, no, you're here. Were you online earlier? All right, so Yvette is going to share information on the Applied Technology Student Conference.
I'll get your
And
slides.
okay, pulling up your slides for you.
Just let me know. Thank you. What you guys do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you mind standing on that side just so they can?
There we
A little bit better.
Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing today? Well, thank you all for being here and thank you for our folks joining online. My name is Yvette Rodriguez. I'm a student services analyst in the workforce development office. Specifically, I'm at our Westmec campus out in Buckeye. Are you guys all familiar with that site that we have up there? How many of you guys have actually been out there? Oh, you, okay. Well, if anybody's interested in ever going out there and kind of touring the space, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to make some time to have you guys come out there. But my presentation today is speaking about what I created with the FRACTL Innovations Grant, which is the EMCC Applied Technology Student Conference. I could go to the second one. So how this idea came to be is from my experience in my role as a campus navigator for the semiconductor program. Have any of you guys heard about the semiconductor program here in Australia? A little bit? Yeah, okay, so pretty much, so just kind of some quick information. So it's called a Quick Start program because it is a 10-day boot camp. It's 40 hours. It is a college course, AAT 132. So students do get 3 college credit hours for completing the course. And this course is a training that pretty much get students ready to become entry-level technicians within the semiconductor industry. And again, it is located at our Westmec campus out in Buckeye. So how I came up with the idea for this conference is myself in the beginning when Paula was our Dean of STEM and Workforce, and then later Becky Baranowski, we would meet with TSMC weekly and just get some different feedback as far as how our group, our program completers were doing in their transition into the workforce. And so what I found is that there were some pretty common areas that routinely students were kind of lacking, or there was just some different gaps. Some of it was pretty general, but what I wanted to do is actually create an event that brought in different subject matter experts on those different topics, just to be able to provide students with a lot more tailored support. And again, you know, this kind of an event ties in with the MCC's mission, where we're going to provide transformative and inclusive learning experiences to foster lifelong learning. Just really showing that we care not only about their experience and their time here at Estrella, but you know what happens after, which is their transition into the workforce. It also touches on all of the values here at Estrella: student-centered, learning, integrity, well-being. Again, just really demonstrating that we care about their lifelong success. You can go on to the next one. Thank you. And so just a little bit more about what the conference kind of looked like. So it was a 2-day conference that took place this past semester, fall of 24. It took place on Friday and Saturday, October 11th and 12th, and it was here at the Estrella Conference Center. We actually invited students from not only Estrella, but I actually invited students as well from Glendale College, from Gateway Community College, from Mesa College, and Chandler Gilbert. Invited all of their students within the applied technology FOI or field of interest. And so some of the key presentation workshop topics that were included were critical thinking and innovation, networking, professionalism. We had different industry guest speakers. We did some LinkedIn prep, interview prep, group mock interviews with industry partners. We did professional headshots with our MTI club. We went over communication in the workplace, advanced job search strategies, and then also just some resources, both internal and external to Maricopa. So the reason why I kind of highlighted a couple of these is just to kind of elaborate a little bit more. So critical thinking and innovation. These were actually areas that were consistently #1 in the areas that students were lacking. And when I would hear that, that was kind of a topic that I really dove into research more, because I wanted to understand what is it that a student is doing or not doing in an interview that's demonstrating that lack. Because at first, I didn't really understand. As faculty, you guys probably already know right away, but I didn't. So, that was something I was really curious about. So that, kind of set me to explore speaking with even other partners just to understand more fully. So ultimately, we ended up having a really great workshop that was held by our faculty, Sean Denny, which is one of our AIT faculty over at the EMCC at Westmont campus, that really honed in on that. And that's just something that I thought was kind of cool and interesting to share, is that in getting that feedback from different partners, not only within manufacturing and automated industrial technology, that seemed to be one of the top critical areas that students are kind of consistently lacking when they go on with employment. And then the group mock interviews. So how many of you guys have ever done a group mock interview, or maybe assisted your students with a group mock interview? How many are you kind of familiar with what that concept kind of looks like? A little bit, yeah. So I actually came up with this idea. I was influenced from the Linda B. Rosenthal Women's Leadership Program that's actually here within Maricopa, because we did something like that. So instead of it just being one-on-one, it was one person giving the questions to a group of us. The really nice special just kind of takeaway from this is that you get to see not only feedback for what you're doing and saying, but what from just kind of others around you are doing and saying. And so that was something we'll see a little bit later, that I got some special feedback from students that had never experienced something like that. And that was one of the top areas in workshop presentation topics that they really liked, just because it was really different. I had one student say, it's kind of funny, but he said oh, I thought I was doing a good job until I saw what this person was doing. And it is. And even I was even kind of this is cool, just kind of seeing some of the feedback. So that's something that I even spoke with our career center here about, hey, maybe look into doing something a little bit more. And it's something that I would encourage even individuals from other areas to maybe kind of consider, again, because you're getting 5 times as much feedback. And then the communication in the workplace. So this workshop, it was really cool because we got kind of specific. We covered topics on how do you ask for a raise? How do you deal with conflict with a colleague? How do you speak up on an issue? How do you handle these very sensitive kind of issues? And again, I really tailored this just because it's some of the things that the reality is that, this happens and it kind of takes place. But I don't routinely see that in those kinds of workshops and presentations. And so we put a lot of intention in what content we put into each workshop. You can go to the next one. Okay, so this is just an example of some of the industry partners that were associated with this. So we actually had RAO, we had Red Bull, we had QTS data centers representatives that actually attended the event, spoke, provided presentations, helped with the group mock interviews. And then of course TSMC, they were pretty much the majority of where I got that feedback over that course of 2 years in tailoring what topics and presentations were in the conference. You can go to the next one. And so the project was actually a really big collaboration with various departments, again, both internal to Maricopa and external. We had our MTI club that provided the professional headshots for the students. So that was really cool, just kind of having a different group of students that were able to participate. We had our district office, the MCOR, that actually helped me with the communication to invite everybody, because again, we invited students from so many different campuses. And so that was pretty cool. And then we also had different faculty and leadership who actually held workshops from, again, Estrella, Glendale, Gateway, Chandler Gilbert, Phoenix College, and then our partners from the data centers, RAO and Red Bull. And then we also got some support from our EMCC Institutional Advancement Office, who provided a little bit of swag for the students. And then of course, our Workforce and Experiential Learning Office, and just facilitating the day of. And then of course, Becky Baranowski, my boss, was extremely supportive in me kind of putting this together, because I don't have the experience in doing this in the past. So you can go to the next. And so here's just a couple of photos. And so this specifically is the Critical Thinking and Innovation Workshop. And again, that's from our faculty, Sean Denny. You can go to the next one. All right, so this is just a little bit of the feedback that we got. Again, the group mock interviews and the critical thinking workshop were the highest rated favorite topics. Students did consistently say that they wanted more. They did. To be fair, you know, what we gave them, you know, everybody got like pens, magnets, stickers. The institutional office donated 3 backpacks. So I then filled them with things that I purchased out of my own pocket. And so, but I would say that this is, it is 50-50. It was kind of an area for me to realize that, hey, in the future, if we do something like this, you know, put in the appropriate funding source to be able to cover that so that I'm not, you know, kind of rushing around. And, you know, that's to be fair, because we'll see a little bit later where students just kind of reported, you know, maybe some of the barriers that they had that they wanted to attend, but they couldn't. And then just students asked, you know, hey, for that LinkedIn workshop, you know, maybe next time do it with laptops so that way we can actually follow along, because some of the students aren't really versed in the whole LinkedIn. And then there were even some students who asked that it be held on the weekend, just based on their availability. You can go to the next one. All right, and then this is just some like student testimonials of, you know, how they felt. This picture right here in the corner. So one thing that I did is I made different little thank you boxes for each of the different presenters. And so, you know, doing this scale of an event for the first time, I didn't know that, you know, majority of the time, different speakers and presenters, they don't get paid. Now, granted, I'm talking to a lot of faculty, so you guys know, you're like, no, we get paid. But I thought that was really nice, you know, just to know that like, hey, a lot of the times these speakers are like traveling, you know, across the valley, you know, on a time crunch and like rushing to get back to their campus, again, for no other reason than just the genuine desire to help. So, you know, it was completely optional, but I am happy to report that all of our speakers got multiple thank you notes from the different students that participated, and I know that they really appreciated kind of seeing that. You can go to the next one. And so reflecting on what could have been better. So again, I facilitated smaller size like workshops and things like that. This is my first time doing something on this scale. So there was, you can see this slide is pretty full. And so one of the first things that reflecting back is that I should have coordinated the event to work with our faculty to actually have them bring the class. So yeah. One of the other things is, you know, I did get some feedback when I sent out the invite because I wanted to ask students, you know, hey, if you wanted to participate, but you can't, you know, can you give me feedback as to why? We did get a lot of childcare, you know, work schedules, and so, you know, for a future virtual event. And then not getting like as much feedback as I wanted to. I got about 25% of the feedback. My original plan was to have them do it before they left, and, you know, just in the chaos of everything, I didn't. So unfortunately, I didn't get, you know, just the amount of feedback that I would have loved to. Pictures, I did not take enough pictures, you know, just kind of like running around. So that was definitely something to know. And again, just more swag. You can go to the next. And so this is just kind of something that I wanted to share again, just from my experience, never doing something of this scale, just learning so many things, you know, for the first time. And again, I recognize I'm talking to a lot of faculty, so you guys, you know, probably got this. But, you know, it's just something cool that I thought about is, you know, hey, if there is an idea or something that you're looking at doing, you know, go for it. And I understand that sometimes you're not going to hit a home run on like the first time, but it was really cool. You know, I can say that my experience throughout this event, you know, I learned so many new things for the first time that I'm already starting to implement on a routine basis in the role. So cute, thank you. That might be, yeah, so that's just it. That's just my information. Like I said, if you want to connect and you want to come out to the Westman campus. So yeah, all right.
Does anybody have any questions for Yvette?
Are you having another one the
That's
next year?
It's a big end.
Yeah, that would probably be the idea. We have something kind of similar. It's like the Skills Trades Expo where we actually have, you know, it's a little bit of a combination. So yes, it would be something that we have and again, get more of that student participation.
Are there any questions online? All right. Oh,
On swag, you could ask the campuses that are sending their students to give you swag as well, because their students are gonna be here as well.
Yes.
Good
You
idea.
should also demand that industry provides swag.
Yes.
They're making lots of money.
Say we did get a ton of Red Bull and a ton of.
Kids are very alert.
Obviously, we're going in there.
All right, any other comments or questions? So again, thank you, Yvette. All right, our next presentation, Ashley is here to present one course, 3 ways, flipping bio 160 for every modality.
And I will say, this is like as being the last one, it's a very hard, thing to follow. So, okay, yeah, I was
You got
like,
it.
I was like, all right, so I know we're like, and I was like, I want to be here in person, then I was like, oh wait, I have the canvas page, so.
Yeah, so Ken, Najma is getting into your course right now, again, as a Canvas administrator for the purposes of this presentation.
I was just digging.
Bill can grade all my stuff now.
I would have used my actual, not the shell. I'm like, now I know.
1 second, she's just looking through,
Making sure she gets the right one.
yeah, making sure she's got the right thing to share.
Oh, sorry, guys. What's the, can you give me the course name again? I am logged in, but just.
Bio 160.
Okay,
The core shell. The 2024 core shell.
thank you. All right, 1 sec. Is it the face-to-face?
Yep, it's has the part of the person, it's got pretty bright colors as the.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
Yeah.
It's very, very
I was
pretty.
like,
Pretty
yeah,
colors.
that's really what I was just like.
It's all about the aesthetics. It looks great. Okay. fine. Here we
Absolutely.
go.
I feel like I need to include that with the future IDP is like so this is what I intend to do when I know I have things to do and I'm anxious about having to get something done. And so I found ways to distract myself on Canva. So yes, right? I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. Okay. So anyway, so this is my this is the Canvas shell. So I will kind of back up a bit. My name is Ashley Burkhart. Those of you who don't know. I am I'm about to finish my 2nd year as probationary faculty. Oh, I know. I was like, dude, yeah, I'm the creep.
It goes by fast.
Believe me, I know. I kept saying like, wait, 3 more years? No, there's like 4 more IDPs, not 3 now. And I'm like, oh, I know. So I took over as course lead at the end of spring of last year for 160. And really, I wanted to revamp the course more so to be a bit more updated, to make it more of my own, to also structure it in such a way that I felt could be used from the title, right, in various modalities. It's currently done as fully in person, hybrid, and then online. So the intent was to do it strictly as you can see, face to face, and then kind of just morphed into having a little bit of restructure. And so if you don't, do you want, me to navigate or do you, whatever is easier?
Najma, what do you want to just share, the modules?
Oh, yeah, so actually, so on here, so this is the home page, right? Students can just easily click on information. But yeah, the course materials, if you don't, would be great.
Najma, did you hear that course materials?
I think you were just on it.
Sorry, I did. My screen is.
It's taking its time. It's okay. There we go. So it like always, right, gets the getting started page, all of this. And so what I had done was just the modules I have per week. They were structured initially as units, and I was overwhelmed as the instructor. I was like, I'm overwhelmed. I can't imagine what the students feel. This is way too much. And so I needed to restructure it in a way that made sense to me. And National, if you don't mind just scrolling down just a tad bit. So the way I have it set up was formatted each week, talking about what we're doing, our learning objectives and outcomes. But I also thought I wanted to be where we're meeting for this one was twice a week. We have, either Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. So I wanted to just split it up as day one. So pre-class learning activity, what they're doing before they're coming into class. Right, so again, it's more of a flip style. I have the lectures online, or they'll do some sort of activity. So this one was like a quiz. I modified one of Jeff Miller's pre-class activities. But it was just something that gets them really to deep dive into, to see where they're at with the material first, go through some of the videos, take some notes, right? So when we actually come into class is when we're gonna be doing a lot more of an interactive piece. It's a lot more of the student-led learning. They're doing a lot of whiteboarding, a lot of discussion. Because I was that student that was like, why do I need to know this? Why do I need to care? And so a lot of the front loading is on them, right? And I tell them, if you are not doing this beforehand, you're going to be lost. And I promise you that's not me being mean. That is me making sure that you are taking accountability for your class, right? For our class, we're in a learning environment. And so it really, to me, I just feel like it helps me build a little bit more rapport with our students in person, especially with my hybrid class where I meet them once a week. And so it's just a better flow. So I kept it like this. Sometimes for like the hybrid, this will get changed from like pre-class. So what are you doing or preparing for class this week? What are you doing to prepare? Is this a reading you need to go through? Some lecture videos I want you to check out, take notes on, what have you. And then, for my like hybrid, it'll say like in person, this is what we're in class, this is what we're doing. And then after class, right? So it gives students a guidance and okay, these are the things that I need you to do before class. You have an idea where we're going in class, and then after class is like this wrap up. I wrote some notes, so don't wait. So a couple of successes, right? Aside from really just modifying the shell to where it could be easily implemented in one of the 3 modalities we have. I also wanted to do that because we potentially have new faculty coming in, new adjuncts, people teaching the course. And so I wanted it to be as organized and as easy just to kind of implement and follow. I also realized that 160 is a class that a lot of students take in preparation for programs like medical sonography, speech language pathology assistant. And so I spent a lot of time reworking all the material, actually a lot more time than I could do it, but reworking the material, re-recording those lecture videos, actually recording lecture videos, changing up the slide decks, really to make it more focused on the HESI. So the HESI is an exam that some of the programs require for students that have, HESI has an anatomy and physiology portion to it. And so I wanted to make sure that we were covering material that were going to help the students as not only as they prepare for the program, but also for their HESI. And so there's a lot of things I'm like, this is important, but from somebody who has a medical background, I'm like, I would rather we really focus on this. So this was one of those opportunities for me to really take a deep dive into what the HESI is, learn more about it, what's covered on it, and then revamp from there. Some of the other great things I got to do was I learned how to embed, and I think Najma, you were the one that showed me that. This is like I know it's like so minor, but it was like so exciting to actually like embed the link. So like they're not fatigued, my students don't get fatigued from clicking so much, right? So I don't remember which one it was now, but there's one of actually on all of them, but
You and me just clicking any one?
yeah, one of the lecture slides. Yeah, the CER and scientific methods.
This one? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Should have it. Okay.
Is this
So,
it?
yeah.
All
So
right.
I have the link up top that way, because I know students like to print them out. I usually, if I have people give them the hard copies, because I'm old school, I like writing on physical paper. But it was just something I was very like, oh, I feel like that's such a genius thing. I know it's very small, but again, it just helps with their clicking fatigue. So that was a really big highlight for me, I would say. I was like, I know that sounds very, very, I'm like nerdy in a way, but it's so true. Another thing was that I learned was it's great to have it structured like this in a module of like, okay, pre-class, what we're doing during class. But I also realized they were only like week 1, And so I actually created a whole schedule, and I don't know if it's on this one or on my own, but it's fine, but it was like, before class, this is what you're doing. So they had it on here, but they have a Google Doc with the schedule, and they have little check boxes that you can go through. So they can actually see, okay, the dates that are due, and in addition to the dates on Canvas, because I actually teach them how to use the calendar. Many students don't know how to use the Canvas calendar. So I'm like, this, and then our own calendar is very important. Let me see. The other thing that was really beneficial for me using and like this design was going through adding, like I said, those pre-class learning activities, but also having the opportunity to change and add new labs. A lot of the labs were kind of were a lot of like online virtual, which was great. You're in person with me. You know, the last this course was created when we all had to switch online during COVID, but I'm like, you're in person with me. I wanted this to be more engaging. And so a lot of it was restructured for that. And actually, one of my adjuncts is working on an online lab manual that helps like basically create their own kits, and they can go through similar labs. So it's not this, you know, interactive, let's just click through things. It's actually, let's kind of explore. Let's see how we can, you know, manipulate or like move around Barbie doll arms or dissect a Barbie doll just to see the different planes and orientations. Yeah, very, very fun things. So all of that, I want to make sure I have all of this, but this was what I think, like the grant really helped me be more intentional. Like actually take the time to be more intentional about what do I want them to learn? How does it help them prepare for HESI? How does that help them prepare for, you know, the next program they're going into? But also for my non-majors, how do I give them the skills or help them build those skills that are so important that they need, especially, you know, if they're not going to take another assignment? What do they need to leave here with? And so it really gave me time to think about that, restructure my materials. Like I said, create this easy to follow shell for my faculty and students to follow. So I also created assignments with my to incorporate more of those rubrics with our CLOs. And in addition to that, I have my learning objectives, but I also started to add essential questions. So as a prior high school teacher, had a lot of students be like, well, wait, what does that mean? What does that term mean? I'm like, we're gonna get there. You'll be able to answer that. So I felt like I spent a lot more time with like learning objectives and explaining to students like, we're gonna get there. And so adding essential questions of like, again, why do you need to learn this? Why are you learning this material? How I want them to think about this has been really beneficial. And those are kind of what we use also to just like guide in-person discussions. So coming in, and you can usually tell the students that have really been through the material, have done the pre-work, you know, but it really is just so fascinating to hear their discussions about like all their whiteboarding that they do. And so that's been was a really big positive aspect of all of the time I spent with this. As a not a part of this necessarily, but I led the first cohort for life sciences, honors cohort in the fall. And again, this spring, and then I have my full first class of honors in the fall, and I'm really excited. But this also, the time I took to go through this and revamp this gave me the opportunity to sit down and create an honors project where the students had to explore some of the programs that Bio 160 is a prerequisite for. Right, as somebody who's first gen student who, you know, went the pathway to med school, I was like, how do I get there? What am I doing? You know, and I feel like the programs that 160 is a prereq for are so vast, but many students don't know. And so it was really just, again, it was inspired out of taking the time to really dive through this and see what we're doing in this class. And I believe they were shared out. Hopefully, I think one of the students I know did it as an honors project, but I'm hoping more do as well. I think there's 6 this semester now that I'll be grading shortly, but but it really was just it's just something that I really contribute to this, and like I wrote here, I'm like, it's not directly related to this whole revamp in the sense of like I didn't incorporate it into the shells, right? But sitting here and thinking about, like I said, what do I want them to take away? What do I want them thinking about? And thinking, well, what project am I going to give that's meaningful? And I'm like, well, these are all the things I want them to know. Why not see how they have to go on and, you know, their Part of the project was interviewing faculty, or excuse me, at one of the programs, the student in the currently in the program, and then a professional member in the field. And so a lot of the questions were, well, what did you take away from 160 or your prerequisite courses that helped you prepare to be a student here? And the students wrote those, I didn't write the questions, right? But it was just this idea of like, see, you are learning this here, now you get to take it a step further and see how this actually is meaningful to you here and now, but as, you know, a future student in that program or, you know, professional in that field. So it was great to restructure this course, really take a deep dive into it. I drastically underestimated the amount of time put into it, because it was just one of those.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sure I was like, it does, but it was one of those where like,
You clicked on people and looked at your time in,
oh,
and you don't want to,
no, I was
just stay away.
Yeah, I was like,
No,
yeah, I was like, I'm
I
okay.
think I made less than $1 an hour.
But it's true, but I'm like, but honestly, and I mean this to be bottom of my heart, and it was beyond worth it.
But it's so worth it.
It is,
Yeah.
because I really feel like, I'm like, okay, now I feel, not that this is the best, right, not that I have not made changes to this, you know, since doing it, but it really was like, okay, this is why I'm doing this, and I can't do this part here because they don't really know where I'm getting at. Like, I know where I want them to be and why I want them doing this, but how do I make sure that this is like transparent to them, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z beforehand, and so I definitely, like I said, drastically underestimated, which is totally fine. You know, I know for next time, but it really is just, I think, giving me the opportunity to take a deep dive, hopefully inspire students and
Time
get
for
some great
questions.
conversations.
Questions are next. No, you're good.
Okay.
You didn't have
Because
to.
I know, I was like, okay, okay, good, so.
So any questions for Ashley? Jared?
So first off, I just want to totally concur with you that this is a beautiful grant because it allows you to intentionally build resources. It gives you the space and the time to do it. So
Yes.
kudos to FRACTL. for
Yes,
providing this.
yes, seriously.
That's my 2 cents, but how are we assessing? What do the assessments look like in your face-to-face? I'm just curious about your assessment strategy.
So are you talking like formal, like
Formal,
summative?
yeah.
So, okay, so usually, so a lot of the assessments are, I have them, like online, they have like these little check-ins of how I'm doing, how they're doing, what material, you know, more informal is really the observations of where they're doing their whiteboarding. Right, they're the ones that are asking the questions, they have some sort of activity we're doing, and I have learned to be that fly on the wall and watch them interact with each other, because again, and I think we talked about the communication and the critical thinking, right? And that was a big piece of it, is just really watching.
Lab practicals in 100, I'm just curious, are you doing lab practicals?
160, yeah.
I mean, 160.
Yeah, no, you're, I mean, it's all, obviously, yeah. So yeah, they have a lab practical
Okay.
actually coming up in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so that's part of the labs that they're doing, there's just bits and pieces of it. And so that was the other thing, was just kind of updating the lab practical to make it, again, more relevant to the labs that they're doing. And so, and obviously they have their assessments, they have their quizzes and exams, but really the big piece of assessment that I really rely on is just seeing how well they're answering questions, their checkout tickets, and you know, a lot of it is just like, tell me more about this, or how does this relate to, you know, last week what we talked about, really making sure that they're building that knowledge, because I don't want them just to like, be like, oh, okay, here you go, and like brain dump on an exam, like that's been there, done that, that's not what I'm looking for. I really want you to try it and see how you're utilizing this outside the classroom. So it's a lot of those open discussions, whiteboarding. I love those checkout tickets because they give them really a lot of time and they're not being like, oh, hey, so-and-so, you tell me about this, right? That would give me horrible anxiety as a student, but I really give them time to really think about this, and that goes back to the essential questions. They have their essential questions, and you know, now that you've gone through this, now we've done some activities, you discussed it with your table mates. What do you think this is? How, you know, for example, it was like, how does you know, the renal system and help with maintaining homeostasis? And so it really is something where they have followed the thread of homeostasis. That was the other thing, is finding the storyline, right, that they can follow through, and each system kind of just tags into it, but it really giving them time to think about it in their own way. So it's been really good. So.
Any questions online for Ashley
Or any of our presenters.
or any presenters?
Did it answer your question?
I don't have any questions, but I just have a comment. I think Ashley, you did a fantastic job on this. Like I said, it's well laid out. And I definitely would like to connect. I believe you mentioned, I know we chatted a little bit via email about the online lab kits that you guys are working on.
Yes.
That might actually be a great thing to include in the mod press, which basically our press books, which is our online, you can basically create your own textbook, OERs, and it's a resource we have through Maricopa. And you can incorporate different interactives like H5P and just different things like that. So we can definitely talk offline, but if you really want to make it more of a formalized, but you can share it throughout Maricopa and pull different resources, I'd be happy to give you more information on that.
Would be great. Yes, thank you. Because it's like I said, it was inspired by one of my adjuncts, but she's taking the lead on it. But yeah, I'm like, it'd be great. Just yeah, I would love that.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Great
comment.
job.
Any other comments or questions online? In the room? Thank you, Anna. All right, so as we wrap up, any other questions from anybody for any of our presenters? And as Jared said, you know, all of these presentations were funded through grant processes that come through FRACTL. So innovation and learning grants and course master development, course master updates, and the work that people do like is amazing. And that's the one thing, like every time I see somebody share a course, everybody comes at it from a different angle with a different perspective with their topics, and we all learn so much. So I love these showcases because people get to see some of those cool things that people do. And I've taken little bits from things Linda's done, things Jared's done, like everybody who's developed, like there's just so many great ideas out there, and that one little thing can make a difference in something in your class.
Amy, can I also add to that too?
Sure.
I feel like the voice in the sky in there. It's really it's creepy.
Especially because it says EMCC Center for Teaching.
Right? I'm like a mystical thing. Anyway, I was going to just add to that. Yeah, so whenever we do our final reviews, we always say we learn from each other. But a lot of the great things that you guys have contributed to your course masters, that's what helps develop that course master template. So a lot of those different components that are added comes from you guys. So I just want to really say kudos to all the developers in the room. That's all.
Thanks, Najma. And then innovation and learning grants too. There's so many awesome things that we've done as a campus based on those little grants and then making something happen. So again, thank you to everybody who's participated in course master development, course updates, innovation and learning grants, and keep it going. It will evolve and begin to look differently, but it will still be there. So we're still dedicated to that. Estrella has done a great job of supporting faculty in those course developments, supporting the campus in different types of innovative things. So we're very excited for kind of how this will look in the future. It'll be slightly different, but know that we are all working hard to make sure these things continue so that you can all keep doing that great work. And definitely, you know, talk to colleagues and other people in your divisions, because like I said, everyone is different. I've done this for 8 years and I've never seen two courses alike. And I've seen a lot of them in every division. So it's very cool. So any last notes, Liz, on your end?
No, maybe just the next and final showcase that we have is 5 Minutes of Fame. So if you haven't signed up for that, it is in a couple weeks, April 25th. Same time, hopefully back in the CTL main room. And so again, just so excited to be able to celebrate after a very long year with so many changes and so many opportunities as well. So.
Right, well, make sure you grab some food for the road. There's still lots of food over there. So if you need another sandwich for dinner, grab one. And thank you all so much for coming. And thank you again to all of our presenters.